fact that, you're looking at the deportation of illegal migrants, and you want the receiving countries to do what?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, from the clip and from what I've said earlier on, you will see a correlation. I agree with my colleague there. Ghanaians in South Africa have contributed positively to the South African economy in their majority. And that's why even if you go to our prisons, you will find very, very, very few Ghanaians in the South African prisons. So they have been contributing very actively. And what our Department of Home Affairs said it is looking into, which is not yet a government position or policy, is to build the countries that are receiving people that we are deporting. And that is in line with the migration policies at the African Union. And as I've said to you, we deport about 500,000 people since 2023. And that comes at a huge cost to the South African fiscus. So that's why Home Affairs is looking into this possibility to enable us to migrate, to manage migration with everyone. But there is that discussion. It's not yet a government policy at this stage.
Okay, but while you're having that discussion also, earlier you talked about, some of these persons being illegal immigrants. And I remember having a discussion with Ghana's High Commissioner to South Africa, His Excellency Kwashi, and he makes the point that very few of the people who came to Ghana in the first batch are undocumented Ghanaians. The fact that these immigrants are legal immigrants in South Africa. The question is, how is the South African government protecting legal immigrants, some of whom are offering specialized services?
As I've said earlier on, with the batch of all Ghanaians that have come back home, almost 74% had overstayed and they had been declared undesirable through our processes, and this is the law, and this has been communicated with the High Commissioner. We are indeed protecting all people within the borders of South Africa. Constitutionally, we are duty-bound to protect everyone, including Ghanaian nationals, as I've said, those that are also participating very positively into our economy. And there is a huge number of them in the various sectors of our economy. The South African government is duty-bound to ensure that they feel safe and they play their role as they are supposed to be in the country. And this goes to everyone that is in South Africa. And that is our constitution. Everyone within our borders, it is our responsibility. And this, whether legally or illegally, the constitution does not differentiate. The government has got a responsibility to make sure that everyone is safe. And it is for that reason why we are condemning the violence against the foreign nationals, because it is our duty as the government of South Africa to protect everyone within our borders. We also have a duty then deal with irregular migration by enforcing the immigration laws.
Great. This question says, so what happens to legal migrants who own shops and were forced out? Compensation?
Yeah, for example, as you have already said, the first aspect we'll have to look into is how it happened, who forced them out and all that. And that is the process that we are currently undergoing. And as I've said earlier on, at this stage, there is no ground for any of compensation, because we are still looking into all the aspects, because you need to be sure whether this, as I've said, most of them had to come back home because they had already been declared to be undesirable in South Africa. So you'll have to check all those aspects because
yes, and that's why the question says. The question says for the legal migrants, so for those who are legally in South Africa, have not overstayed and can be there, what happens to their shops?
That's why I'm saying we will not speculate. We'll have to deal with each case to be able to see.
So where you find that there's a case of a legal migrant whose shop has been closed and lost business, Is the government of South Africa considering compensation?
We are looking at all those cases.
And is compensation on the table?
It is an issue that is being discussed. I can't make a policy pronouncement that has not yet been confirmed, but it is an issue that is being discussed, and it will definitely, with this process that we're undergoing, be one of the issues that we will pronounce on.
Okay, now aside the compensation, this question says, is there a mechanism where the government can facilitate transfer so that they can be paid for their properties, for these persons whose shops have been closed, for instance, can you facilitate the liquidation of their assets and a transfer made to them?
Yeah, indeed, we can work with the Ghanaian High Commissioner and look into all the cases, case by case, and anyone who has got an asset or a property, their properties is still protected by law in South Africa. It is their property. And if it has to be transferred or be sold, the amount must still come to them. They are still protected. Okay. The issue is that we need to get the information and know where it is. And we have been very clear that such communication should be done with the Ghanaian High Commissioner in South Africa, with our person responsible for Ghana in the Department of International Relations. And we will really appreciate that communication is done through the diplomatic channels and so forth, and not through social media and the media interviews as it has been happening.
Final question before I wrap it all up says, please ask the South African Foreign Minister why children were dragged from school and people from hospitals by mobs. Even illegal migrants deserve some dignity.
Yes, and that is, it's wrong. It has been condemned, and that person could also check. There is a court case that there's a court order that also ordered that is wrong. Only law enforcement must deal with the enforcement of immigration laws, and that should not be handled by any private individuals. What I do want to clarify with regards to access to healthcare, with regards to access to basic education and so forth, is that in South Africa, most foreign nationals have been able to take their kids to schools, those that are able to do so, including to access our healthcare. Even in certain extent, misinterpretation of the Healthcare Act, where it's supposed to only be emergency medical care, which is free. Sometimes it has been abused, even the healthcare itself. But it should not be implemented by any individual. It must be law enforcement. This, for me, is the recurring theme.
Great. So, Ronald Lamola, I know you're a lawyer, and I know how lawyers will go about these. But let's have a frank conversation for a minute. Based on all that has happened.
I thought all along we've been having a frank
we have, but based on all that has happened, would you say that this has led to the straining of relationship between South Africa and African countries?
Yes, it has, and that's why we feel duty bound to explain to our African sister countries that South Africa and Ghana in particular, we have had long fraternal good relations that have persisted for since time immemorial. And you will have heard also our president in his speech, he also referenced President Mahama. When South Africa was under attack on these genocide issues, and when we visited the White House, President Mahama was the only president in Africa who penned an open letter through The Guardian in the UK that defended South Africa's sovereignty, dignity, and integrity, and including in many other African countries. We want to continue to have good fraternal relations because we belong to the African continent. We are Africans. The only issue we are clarifying is that as we deal with the matter, let's deal with it factually, not misinformation. But let's be factual, and that's our pain that we have to respond to fake media, fake news, sometimes disappointing when the misinformation comes from officials, particularly when they say that there has been 2 Nigerians that have been killed, which is not true, that there have been 5 Mozambicans, which is not true. As I've said, at least 2, and we have condemned it. And when they say that there's 15 Ghanaians that ended up in hospital, and we have checked and verified, we could not find any. So we are saying, let's deal with it at a factual level. These 2 countries have got good relations, as I've said. In this spirit of the World Cup, Ghana was the best performing. South Africans said, this is our Bagana. In the 2010 FIFA World Cup, they've got this very good memory. And as we speak today, South Africa and Ghana cooperate, support each other in various platforms. We support candidates of Ghana. They do the same for us. So from our perspective, indeed, we can work on this, we can resolve it, and we can be able to strengthen our relations with our sister countries.
And in the spirit of the World Cup, we wish you all the best against Mexico.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Ronald Lahola,
listeners,
for joining us this morning.